Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Today at T-Mobile, I'm joined by a special co-anchor.
What up, everybody? It's your boy, Big Snoop Deal Double G.
Snoop, where can people go to find great deals?
Head to T-Mobile.com and get 4 iPhone 16s with Apple Intelligence on us, plus 4 lines for $25.
That's quite a deal, Snoop. And when you switch to T-Mobile, you can save versus the other big guys' comparable plans plus streaming.
Respect. We up out of here.
See how you can save on wireless and streaming versus the other big guys at T-Mobile.com/switch. Apple Intelligence requires iOS 18.1 or later.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, Duke fans, episode 713 of the DBR podcast, the Duke Basketball Roundup. Jason Evans, Donald Wine here for you. I just want to lay out very, very quickly what the next week is going to be like here on the podcast, your number one source of Duke information out there. I don't know if we're number one. What the hell am I talking about? We're kind of number one. We get a lot of downloads. I don't know. In any event,
like 1 to 130.
Yeah, something like that. In any event, what you're going to be getting is nonstop content. Our goal, I think, is a new podcast every single day with all kinds of special guests, all kinds of interesting people who can give us perspective on the Final Four and the Blue Devils playing Houston. And the first and number one in our hearts, perhaps the most frequent celebrity guest we have here on the DBR podcast, Jay Bilas is joining us right now. Jay, welcome back to the DBR for, I don't know, probably the 15th time or something like that.
But that's sad that you're ranking me number one. That's a blistering indictment of the rest of your guests.
Number one in our hearts for sure, buddy. Hey, I just want to start with this first of all. How impressive? How much have you been impressed by this Duke team? Thinking back to, I feel like we talked to you in the preseason or early on. They had some struggles. How impressed are you with what they have done lately, winning an ACC title and then kind of running through the East region?
Yeah, incredibly impressed. I mean, it's as together a team as I think one could hope for. But look, I think it's the most talented team in the country. And, it's certainly the most balanced. It's top 5 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. The only team in the field that ranks that. I mean, all 4 teams in the Final Four ranked in the top 10 in both offense and defense, which is remarkable. And they're the top 4 teams in efficiency overall. So maybe it shouldn't be a surprise that all 4 have made it to the Final Four, but I think it still is a surprise to go through this, navigate this tournament. Nobody slipped on a banana peel is pretty impressive. But I think the most impressive thing look, we've seen this before. This is not unprecedented. In 2008, all 4 number 1 seeds made it to the Final Four, and it happened to be in San Antonio, where Kansas beat Memphis for the national championship. But this group is different in that and I think the analytics-wise, KenPom.com is probably the most digestible for fans and probably the go-to. I certainly look at it, but I use some analytic stuff that goes a little bit deeper than KenPom does. But in the KenPom era, which goes back to, I think, 1997, these 4 teams are ranked in the top 10 all-time in efficiency. Duke second all time. I think Houston is like fourth, and then Florida's sixth, and Auburn's eighth. I mean, that's absurd when you think about it. That all time, all four of these teams are ranked in the entire all time being 30 years or so. That's pretty extraordinary.
And
And
three of them have to lose. I mean, it's a
well,
crime.
the three of them are going to lose. Yeah,
Yeah.
three of them are, but that's true every year. You have four of the best teams ever. One of them loses, but or three of them lose. But I mean, how lucky are we? While so many people are lamenting, oh, my bracket, we didn't get enough upsets and all this stupid business. It's remarkable that this sort of power has reached the Final Four. And after all, as much as it is a bracket spectacle and a gambling event and all that, it's still the national championship event. So it's pretty cool. You got the four best teams.
Jason, Jay, the teams that are in the Final Four, obviously, you mentioned the 4-1 seeds being the first time since 2008 that all four have made it. As you know, not every great team or the best teams usually get to this point. So, what about this particular tournament has kind of led to these four teams rising to the top as people some expected them to be?
My guess, and it's just a guess, is that they're just so much stronger than everybody else. I mean, there were a few games when in the Elite Eight, like, look, Michigan State's very good, but there was never a minute in that game where I thought they could win, not one. And that's not a knock on them. It's just Auburn's better than they are. And I did not anticipate. I thought Houston would beat Tennessee. I did not think they would beat them like that. They held them 15 points in the first half. I mean, it's ridiculous. And this is a different Houston team that we've seen in the past. They're still the defense and rebounding team, offensive rebounding especially, that kind of scares you a little bit. But what really scares you is their ability to score. They are the number one, even though they don't take a lot of threes, they're the best three-point shooting team in the field. They shoot 40%, basically 39.8 or whatever it is, at 40% as a team. And their three guards, L.J. Cryer, Emmanuel Sharp, and Milos Uzan, all shoot over 41%. Uzan shoots close to 45. And a couple of them can generate their own. Like L.J. Cryer can get his own. He's not a big guy, so I think Duke can provide him some issues with their length and athleticism at the guard spots and then switching. Um, but Sharp, you got to guard from 30 feet and in. I mean, he's an extraordinary shooter that he's got an unorthodox release. He kind of flicks the ball, but his wrists are so strong and supple, I would say. It's really remarkable how he can have a repeatable stroke like that, and that damn thing goes in like you can't believe. He's really an outstanding shooter.
You know, we talk about Duke's defense, and I know we'll talk a little bit about that later, but according to KenPom, again, we use KenPom quite a bit. Houston has the number one defense. And in your mind, what you've seen this year, and I know they're tough on both sides of the ball, but what about their defensive philosophy makes them so tough to crack?
Well, they do a great job. They're very physical, and they do a great job of staying in front of the ball. They're really hard to drive because you're driving right into their chest, and they don't play with their hands. So I mean, it's not like they don't foul; they foul, but they're not handsy. They're going to chest you up, and they're really strong at basically every position. But what they do that's a little bit different is they throw a lot of traps at you off ball screens. They call it monster. Well, it's just it's trap, another name for trap.
Mhm.
So they'll trap off a ball screen as soon as you pick your dribble up, they're recovering because all they want to do is stop it, and they're not looking so much to they do force some turnovers, but it's not for that. It's more to be disruptive and to stop the advance of the ball. And then they're really difficult to pass out of those long-armed, really strong defenders. And they're like Duke is as lengthy a defensive team as there is in the country, but Houston's not far off them. They just got a couple guards that are smaller. L.J. Cryer is smaller than any guard Duke puts out there, with the exception of Caleb Foster, maybe. And then they'll trap in the post. Duke doesn't throw it into the post all that much. Malowacz is more of a dunker spot, kind of screen roll lob threat. He's not a low post scorer, so that's probably not going to be that big of a deal. But they get the ball down on the baseline, you wind up taking the baseline or sideline. They could trap you there, and those traps are difficult to deal with. And then they recover very well, and they're really good at dealing with out of bounds situations. Not as good as Auburn, but they're good. They're really good at those things. They can make it difficult.
Between the two teams, Duke and Houston, obviously, is there a matchup that you're looking for, or that fans should look for as kind of one of the focuses of the game? I know there's obviously a lot of different aspects of this game that can go one way or the other, but is there one that you're particularly interested in watching how it transpires?
Both teams do a lot of switching. So I don't think we're necessarily going to see kind of this guy on this guy throughout the whole game. I don't think that's going to happen very often. I mean, it'll happen, but it's not going to be the dominant theme where this guy versus this guy is going to determine the game. I think it's really going to be important for Duke to deal with LJ Cryer. He's the one guy that can really create his own. And, up until I think somebody else did it, but up until the last couple of games, he was the first guy and for a time the only guy to have scored 30 points or more in an NCAA tournament game for two different teams. He did it at Baylor, and then he did it again at Houston. Really talented kid, and he can pull up and hit middies. Really good from deep, and doesn't need to get it necessarily off the offense. He can create it on his own and take off on his own. He's not a get to the rim guy as much as he is a pull up jump shooter. So that's where I think Duke's length can be of issue to him. He doesn't play against that kind of length all that often. Not a whole lot bothers him. But the combination, like Milo Suzan, is probably as important an assignment for Duke's defense because he's their best playmaker, and he's not a blow by guard. It takes him multiple dribbles to get into the lane because he's not ultra quick, but he can get into the lane. And he's a very good passer, very good finisher, and by percentage, he's their best 3-point shooter. I mean, they got three guys. Cryer's hit over 100 threes, Sharp's hit 80 some, and Uzon's up near 70. So those three guys have made a lot of threes on the season.
On Duke's side of the ball, obviously a lot of weapons, a lot of options on offense. Is there an X factor for Duke that maybe Houston would be concerned about? I know obviously people point at Cooper Flag or maybe Nipple, but is there a guy that you think could give Houston problems just based on how they play?
I think Sion James is the one I would look at.
I love that answer.
He's a very good shooter, especially when he has his feet set. And because of the weapons Duke has at other positions, he can have his feet set a lot. And I think he arguably is their best perimeter defender. So you put him on, if he's on LJ Cryer for a period, I mean, that's a lot of size and strength and athleticism on Cryer. But it kind of doesn't matter whether it's Proctor or James, because those guys are both lengthy athletic players that can really cause a lot of problems. So that's really the best part for Duke is they can switch out almost anybody on these guys and really cause some issues. Like that was I thought the most impressive thing about their performance against Alabama. I think a lot of people look at Alabama and they think, oh my God, 3-point shooting team there, they make threes. But the question is, how do they get them? And they get them by driving. And they'll take them in transition, but Duke's always been pretty good about that because of the way their offense, the tempo they play on offense, they don't give up a ton of transition. And they get back. But Duke's ability to protect the paint is impressive. And by protecting the paint, they were able to limit the opportunities, the kick out opportunities, especially and off of offensive rebounds too. Alabama got a fair amount of those against other teams, and Duke was able to take those away. So they had to launch up some hard threes, and as a result, didn't shoot anywhere near the accuracy they did, certainly against BYU, which is historic, but against other teams that they play. That was probably the best defensive performance I saw all year long. That and Auburn in Tuscaloosa were the two best defensive performances I saw teams put on Alabama this year.
Jay, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, I want to talk to you a little bit more about Duke specifically. We got a lot there about Houston, but we're going to talk about the Blue Devils and what has impressed you the most with them this season when we come back.
All right, Duke fans, the finals for March Mania are here. And the only thing for sure is, it's the last time to bet on college basketball this season. Get in on all the action, expected and unexpected, with DraftKings Sportsbook.
That's right, Donald, with live betting, exclusive content, promos, parlays. DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March. And if it's your first time using DraftKings, you can get something special. $5 in bets for $150 in bonus bets instantly. It is a great deal as we close out the season.
Bet the unexpected with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DUKEBB. That's code DUKEBB for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Uh-oh, the last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
There are people out there all across the country pushing boundaries to grow the game of golf. Like champion speed golfer Lauren Cupp, who plays faster than anyone else. And Will Lowry, whose work in the golf community inspires more kids to get into the game. As a champion partner of the Masters, Bank of America supports everyone determined to find out what's possible. In golf and in life. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Bank of America N.A. member FDIC, copyright 2025, Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate pina colada and Thai-iced coffee flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
All right, we're back from the commercial break. Jason and Donald with you on the Duke Basketball Roundup, and we are joined again by Jay Bilas. Jay, you know, you've known John Shire for a long time. Obviously, you know everybody in the program. He's been around the program, going on 20 years now. What impresses you the most about him as a coach? Is there anything about him as a coach that has surprised you?
Surprise, no. I'm just so impressed by, John's his own guy. Like everybody, we've all been influenced by Coach K, but beyond the influence of Coach K, he's his own person. Like he makes his own decisions. He's really smart. He's very, very thoughtful, and he seeks input from those around him before any decisions made. But he's really, really confident in who he is and the preparation he's put in. So he's not a second guess guy. I think he's got to be great to play for. I mean, the guys seem extraordinarily happy with their roles and what they're doing. And they're a very together group. So, the team was put together, I think, very thoughtfully, with length, athleticism, skill factored in. He recruited freshmen very effectively. He's got great young players. And then he thoughtfully put complementary pieces around them. So when people say, well, you can't win with freshmen, well, yes, you can if you have these kind of freshmen. And then it's hard to build the culture when you have players coming in from all over the place. Well, he has players coming in from all over the place and has built a sustainable culture. It's been really impressive. But I think he recruited what it appears to me is he recruited obviously talent, skill, length, and athleticism, but also character. Because it's easy to say, a lot of teams say this, they say, well, role acceptance of being a star in your role. Everybody says that. These guys do it. And then when it was required for them to step out of their role, when Cooper Flagg was injured in the ACC tournament, they did that. And that's not easy either. So, I mean, you guys probably got the same. I mean, you're getting all these questions about what is the status of Cooper Flagg? Is he okay? And I'm like, he sprained his ankle. Like he wasn't in a coma. And, maybe the wheelchair led to a little bit of this. That was probably a little bit much. But you're trying to remind people, sprained ankles happen in basketball, and after they said the x-rays were negative, I think we're good. He's going to be back. Now, whether he's back tomorrow or the day after, I don't think this is a career ender. And should they play him? Should they save him for the draft? I'm like, with a sprained ankle, like everybody needs to relax a little bit. But when he came back, that seemed to be kind of seamless as well. And that I think that's what speaks so well of the togetherness of this group.
I feel like you just answered it, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. You're someone who's very close to the Duke program. What do you think sets these guys apart from Duke teams that we've seen in the past? Maybe I should just play the answer you just gave us.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. Like, I don't know where this team ranks among the all-time greatest teams Duke's had. I think they're in the conversation. And look, I mean, the way our culture is, the separating factor for teams is a championship. Because I would challenge anyone to tell me that the '99 Duke team isn't one of the greatest teams Duke's ever had and one of the all-time great teams.
Hey, 86 too.
Well, we were good, but I don't know if we were as good as all these other teams.
Don't put yourself down, man. I was a freshman. I saw you.
I'm putting everybody else down. I was great. They were everybody. But I guess what I mean by that is like with the facile interpretation of things, when you win a championship, that's certainly an elevating factor in everyone's minds, and it should be. I mean, that is a separating factor. But there have been a hell of a lot of teams that Duke's had that you could say, I don't know, that '99 team was better. If you want to say the '86 team, like, great. That's fair. Those are important points, and they're fair points. But it doesn't matter because they're never going to play against each other. So nobody cares at the end of the day. It's how they do when they had the chance. And this team has a chance to do something really, really cool. And it's been like the only thing, like you it's in the back of your mind a little bit, trying to evaluate everything, is the ACC did not offer Duke a lot of resistance. And look,
same thing happened in '99.
Yeah, well, '99, there are a lot more good teams in the ACC than there were this year. This is, I mean, not to denigrate the league, but I'm about to denigrate the league. This is the worst the ACC's ever been, and it's not close. The league was objectively poor, and certainly by relative standards to what the league has put out in the past. I mean, there were a lot of other leagues that were better, and if it weren't for Duke, the league's numbers would be horrifying. And so what I'm really saying is if you go back to 1991, UNLV was the best team in the country that year. And it doesn't matter. Like I know Duke won, and I was there as a grad assistant. Duke beat them in '91. I'm not taking anything away from that, but they were the best team. And I still think in a 7-game series, if you're being honest, you'd probably, if you had to put your life savings on a team in a 7-game series, you'd probably pick them. All right. That's not to take away anything from that 91 team, which was tremendous. But one of the things that helped Duke win that game was the fact that Duke lived in close games and UNLV did not. And who knows? I mean, it has not been an issue yet, but I think it will be. How is Duke going to react in a close game with all this riding on it? Nobody knows the answer to that. I believe they would react favorably or will react favorably. I can't imagine that there's going to be double-digit wins for Duke if they win this thing. Maybe, but these teams are really good, and I would be surprised if we're double-digit wins. But who knows? We've been surprised before. But how will this team react in those situations or in a situation like that when it hasn't lived there? And maybe we're making stuff up, or I'm making stuff up that may not be an issue, but it's certainly a question in the back of your mind.
By the way, first of all, 86, 92, 99, 01, and then probably 2010 is my pantheon of Duke teams. And I think this team has a definite chance to supplant 2010. So that's just that.
2015 was pretty good too.
Yeah. I wrestle between 2010 and 2015.
I don't choose between children, so that's just me.
I do. I know which kid's my favorite, and they know too.
But I wanted to, shifting back, we saw Duke dismantle an Alabama offense that was supposed to be, easily one of the top few in the country, and they were coming off of an absolutely incredible game. So I guess the theory that you can beat Duke by hitting threes, or even by hitting a high percentage of twos, which is what Alabama does really, really well. You can toss that one aside. If you're trying to come up with a game plan, like here's the way I would beat Duke. I'm not necessarily saying Houston, Auburn, Florida, whatever it is. Here's how I'm going to construct the way to beat Duke. What would it be?
I think you have to control the pace of the game and run really good offense without, Duke doesn't force a lot of turnovers, but they do force some questionable shots that they're able to take the other way. And, I'm not expecting that Duke is all of a sudden going to be forcing 16, 18 turnovers in a game in the Final Four. I don't think that's going to happen. That's not the type of team they are. They're a really good paint protecting, lane protecting, and defensive rebounding team. They stay in front. They force really difficult shots, and they'll force you into a lot of tough twos. But their paint protection is excellent. But I still think, like, look, Clemson beat them. They're not unbeatable. No team in this Final Four is unbeatable, especially given the level of competition that each team is facing in these potentially 2 games that they're going to play. But I tend to think that physicality is going to be a factor. So if you're going to beat them, you'd better be physical. And that's the one thing that Houston is above all else, is they are physical. And I've been really impressed over the years with Houston. I think this may be Kelvin Sampson's best Houston team because they score with relative ease as you relate them to his past teams. His past teams could get into an offensive funk. I did think against Tennessee when they got up by 19 at half that they were a little loose with possessions in the second half. When you have that kind of lead, they didn't step on their neck, which I think they should have on the offensive end. They didn't do that. And then, Tennessee was able to cut it to 9 or something like that. But there was never a moment when I thought Tennessee was going to win. But with a team with a little more offensive firepower than Tennessee, I certainly would question that with regard to Houston. They're not their tempo control is really good. Like that's going to be like playing a Clemson team that's twice as good as Clemson. Look, it's not going to be an easy game, and it will be. I think it'll be the most physical game Duke plays. Even if they win, I don't think they're going to play a more physical game in the final if they're able to get past Houston.
One of the guys that has reemerged, at least come back in the last couple of games, is Malik Brown. Obviously, he's had a few injuries this year, two to the same shoulder, and he's kind of working his way back into the fold from there. How do you feel that reintegration is going to work this week? Or you're going into the Final Four, right? A lot of people say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But he's clearly been a key player on the defensive side of the ball, especially this year, and coming back into the team doesn't feel like he's 100%. But how do you reintegrate a guy like Malik Brown into this defense or just both sides of the ball, given the fact that this is crunch time? This is the last, 1 to 2 games of the season.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's even an issue, honestly. I think for Malik, because he's one of what you might call an ultimate role player. He's not coming in there thinking, all right, I got to get my shots. He's a really good passer. He's an excellent blender on the offensive end. He rebounds and he does whatever's necessary. And then on the defensive end, he's elite. Can switch off onto anybody, and his ability to get his hands on the ball, you don't see that very often. And he could switch out on a guard, knock the ball away. He's got long arms, but he's just got unbelievable hands and a great court sense. So I don't think, like I get it, sort of if it ain't broke, don't fix it thing, but there's nothing broken for him to fix. It's more, if he can enhance things when he's out there, put him out there. And I don't think John will hesitate to do that if he's healthy. It does limit you a little bit on the offensive end. He's not a stretch player. Yeah, I mean, he knocked down a couple threes against North Carolina that was honestly a little bit of a surprise at the Dean Dome, but I don't anticipate anybody really being concerned about that. You just don't want to dare him to shoot. You give him a shot where he's got more time to shoot than in a horse game. That you wouldn't want to do that. But on offense, he is a really good passer. But I don't think you're overly concerned about, hey, we have to take away him doing this, that you want to keep him off the glass and make sure that you put some pressure on him so he's not able to pick you apart when he's got the ball.
All right, I got 2 questions to wrap us up. First one is, how good's Cooper Flagg? And by that, I mean, you scouted Victor Wembanyama. You've seen some of the great freshmen. How good is Cooper Flagg?
He's the best freshman Duke's ever had. And by that, I realize what I'm saying there. Nobody has been this complete as a freshman. Nobody's, checked every box the way he does. And it goes beyond his skill level. And
by the way, is Grant Hill going to be mad at you for saying that?
No, because I think Grant would admit that when Grant was a freshman, Grant's the best player in my judgment. Grant's the best player Duke's ever had, and I realized that's saying something.
Is Shane Battier going to be mad at you for saying that?
I don't care. If Shane wouldn't admit it, then we got a problem. Nobody's been this good at Duke as a freshman. And leading him in scoring, rebounding, assists, steals, blocks, you name it, and then continuing not only to do that at age 17, just into 18, and continuing to get better, but he's got a court awareness, a competitive character that I've never seen in a freshman before at Duke, and I think we're going to be comparing him to some of the best freshman performances we've ever seen, like Carmelo Anthony stuff. And he does it in every facet. Now, will he continue to, like, Grant didn't shoot it like this as a freshman. He didn't do these things. He did a lot of amazing things, but not quite to this level. Now, will Cooper continue on that upward trajectory to get where Grant wound up? I mean, I think Cooper would probably take that if you said, "Hey, you're going to be Grant Hill, the Grant Hill that was played the first 7 years in the NBA before he got injured and was 5 times All NBA and basically the Sandy Koufax of the NBA." I think Cooper Flagg and his people would take that. He's headed that way. He's got that sort of potential, but who knows whether it's realized. But as a freshman, um, nobody's done what he's done. Nobody.
All right, Jay. Obvious last question. I want your picks for the Final Four, but here's the challenge. So you're going to have to do a little bit of math. Give me your picks, but also give me percentage chance that each of these four teams wins the title.
Um,
By math, I mean you can't exceed 100.
I'd probably go Duke 40%, Florida 35, and then equal to the other two, whatever's left over, split it in half. I thought before the tournament started, I thought Florida was playing the best of anybody. Since the tournament has started, Duke is playing the best of anybody. Um, I'm not one of those guys that goes back on when I saw the bracket. I did what I always do. I looked at each number one seed and thought, what does their path look like? And I liked each one of them. And so I put each one of them in the Final Four. And then I did each of the games from there. But look, I don't know if you guys will agree with this, but I thought last year when Duke and Houston played in the Sweet 16, that was a really good Duke team and it was a really good Houston team. If Jamal Shed had not been injured, I thought Houston would have beaten Duke. And
I
I
agree
think
with you. Yeah.
and I think they would have beaten. I think they would have beaten NC State.
Yep.
And the only team in that Final Four, I don't think they would have beat. Maybe Purdue, but they would not have beaten UConn. That's it. But I thought they were better than Duke. When I saw the bracket this year, and then okay, all four number one seeds, I'm projecting to make it. Lightning in a bottle, they all four did, which is hard to do, no matter how good these teams are, for everybody to navigate that successfully. Um, I thought, okay, Flag had been injured. Maybe that was in the back of my mind a little bit, even though I knew he was going to be 100% by the time they played. Um, I thought of last year, and is that the fact that Duke beat Houston last year? It's not going to once the ball is tipped, that's going to have nothing to do with the game. But I do think it has something to do in the preparation of it. And I think that's a prep sharpening factor. Same thing for Auburn having lost their one game against Florida this year. I think that helps Auburn a little bit in their prep. I mean, you can look back to like I brought up 91. Duke getting blown out the year before by UNLV was a prep sharpening factor. That helped us in our preparation. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Didn't make a difference once the game started, but it made a difference leading up to it. So at the time, I said, I kind of favor Houston. If I had a redo, I would probably take Duke right now.
Well, there you have it, folks. Jay, thanks so much, man. We always appreciate it. As we get closer to the draft, we're going to have you back on. How many Dukies are getting drafted? At least 4, right?
How many jump in the pool? I mean,
right.
People are still like with voodoo dolls and rosary beads and whatever everybody else uses, saying maybe Cooper will come back. I hope I'm not. He's not coming back. Like that's not going to happen. So don't worry about it.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Always fun to have you on the DBR podcast. We'll talk to you soon.
Always my pleasure. You're a favorite guest, number one in your hearts. Total bullshit.
Oh, come on. By the way, Donald's going to be there in San Antonio. You guys can,
yes.
If you have a drink, I'm buying.
There. All right.
We'll do. We'll do.
All right. You guys be good.
Later, buddy. Well, it is always a great pleasure to have Jay Bilas. Donald, we are super lucky as Duke fans that many of the best college basketball commentators, observers, analysts, whatever you want to call it, are former Dukies.
Mm-hmm.
So they pay extra special attention to the Blue Devils, and Jay is, I got no problems. Jay is foremost among them. So yeah, that was a ton of fun.
It's always great to have him on. I always appreciate that he keeps it real with us and really provides. You always feel like you're learning something about Duke, right? Like not just the other team, but especially our team and how we play and how we approach the game when he's on here. I took note of the fact that he mentioned, and I think we talked about this uh, on the bracket breakdown when we on Selection Sunday that everybody basically had either Florida over Duke or Auburn over Duke in the final, and he was one of them that had picked Florida. And at the time, I remember we kind of said like, yeah, it's probably because they don't know the real status of Cooper Flag. They may think he's coming back, but how effective is he? And in the first like 5 minutes of that opening game against Mount St. Mary's, I'm sure all of them were like, yeah, he's fine. So let me go ahead and look back and kind of redo my picks. So I think it's interesting that looking back now, he kind of said the same thing that was in the back of his mind when he was making his picks.
Yeah, and like we were saying, he's going to be out there in San Antonio. So
Yeah,
Fort Man.
I think the one thing also just because I know I'll forget this later in the week with all the stuff we have coming. I think it's interesting. He mentioned the Houston game last year in the Sweet 16, where without Jamal Shed, he said probably Houston has the advantage there. And I think you and I would agree with that. We also beat Houston, if you recall, in Dallas. Um, and to go down to Texas and beat them, if you recall back in 2010, we beat Baylor in the Elite Eight in Houston. We got to do it again, ladies and gentlemen. We got Houston in San Antonio. It's hard to beat a team in their home state. We've done it with Butler in the 2010 championship. Uh, we beat them in their hometown,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have to do it in the same state. Houston fans are going to be so. Hopefully, I will see a bunch of you down in San Antonio. Is going to be a war. So let's get ready for it.
All right. Like I said at the top, we're going to have much more content for you this week. So I'm not going to dilly-dally around and waste your time. The DBR podcast better be at the top of your feed. You should be sending us emails, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. Like, subscribe, all that other jazz, so you do not miss a second of what we have bringing your way. And Donald will be in San Antonio this weekend. We will connect and get some behind-the-scenes stuff from him as well. Until then, he's Donald. I'm Jason. Here's the Duke Band playing us out and taking us to San Antonio.